guys. So, I love building stuff. There's just something about putting two pieces of material together and getting something out of the end of it. So, when I get the opportunity to build something, I go straight for it. And I thought I'd show you guys how I do this one. Since I've built all the other beds that are in my garden, I thought it'd be time to build a bigger one in this spot here and go through it. So, if you want to learn how to make it, keep watching. Okay, so this plan's changed a little bit since I first started this garden. Behind me, I've got two beds. They're 1 metre by 1 metre, and originally I wanted to have them as a fruit tree and a vine, but it never actually worked. The banana that I got in here didn't do particularly great, and the fruit tree that I put in there didn't do particularly great. So I figure I'm wasting a bit of space here as it is. I want to have a bigger bed. I want to have the biggest one that I've made so far, and yeah. So here I have some blue steel. I love this stuff. It is awesome. It's really easy to work with, and you can see straight through it. So it's really easy to weld together, and it's strong material. It's about 2 mil thick and 30 mil by 30 mil. So this stuff is awesome for making a grow bed out of. Plus it is strong and it won't warp and it won't bend. Well, how I make it, hopefully anyway. And I was going to make the biggest one in this spot that I can possibly fit. So that bed is going to be about 4 meters by... it's going to be about 4 meters by 1.4 meters. So hopefully I should be able to get a lot more grow bed area out of it. I should be able to get a lot more useful space out of it. And yeah. So yeah, I'm going to get stuck into it. I'm going to bring out all my tools. I'm going to bring out all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to start doing it. And I might do a bit of a voiceover as I do it, because I'm going to have to speed it up. Otherwise you guys are going to watch a 4 or 5 hour long video, which might get a little bit boring. So yeah. Okay, so the first most important thing that I've got inside of a project that I do, I don't like getting bored when I do it. So, headphones. I've got an audiobook that I'm listening to, and it just makes the time pass a lot quicker, and I don't even notice when it's like 4 or 5 hours later and I'm halfway through the book. So what I'm listening to at the moment is Limitless. It's got made into a movie yet, but there was a book made first, so I'm listening to that one, and it is awesome so far. So I will keep listening, and you guys can watch me do my thing.
Okay, so it's voiceover time. This has been sped up to about 3060 times normal speed, so I'm going to be jumping around there doing stuff very, very quickly, but I thought it'd give me a chance to talk through what I'm actually doing, as you can watch me doing it. So I've just cut off the legs for it there. I'm doing them in the exact same heights as the beds behind it. Now it's not that tall, so they're not that tall of the bed, but they're gravity fed from all the other beds around it, so it doesn't need to be that tall for what I'm doing here. But the advantage of making it is that I can do it any height that I want, any width that I want, and any shape that I want. Which is what I'm doing here. And as I'm turning it around there, I'm getting the first impression about how big this thing is. So 4 meters long is the biggest one that I made. The other ones that I made were about 3.4 meters, and that was still quite long. So what I'm doing there is I'm laying both lots on top of each other. So the first lot of steel I laid on top of the second lot of steel I'll put on top of the first one, just to get the same shape, so that I'd have the same dimensions, have the same all that sort of stuff, and then they'll line up. So, and the magic is sped up. I've now got both sides actually done. So as it is, it doesn't have enough support, so I need to put more supports in it. I put 2 different legs inside of it. Oh wait, I'll get to there in a second. So now that I've got both sides of the actual bed done up, I'm going to do the bits to pull them together, so there's actual strength, and you've got just the normal square container. So the thing I love about welding is that it's like gluing, but with steel. So you get a very strong weld out of it, which is what you want. So I like to think of it like hot gluing. So you get 2 pieces of metal, and then you hot glue them together, and it takes even less time than that for the actual weld to cool and for the pieces to be stuck together. This sort of thing can be done quite easily out of wood, but I just like steel for the extra strength and the ease that it all goes together. So within a couple hours I've had pretty much all of this done, all the frame done, all together, and that sort of stuff. So I'm doing the inner bracing here. This is one thing that I didn't do enough of when I did my first bed, and there wasn't enough bracing for the plywood that's going to sit on top of it and all the weight, and then the plywood pretty much broke and fell through. So for all the beds afterwards, after I fixed the first one, which was painful, I went around and put a lot of bracing underneath it, which is what you can see here. So I've got the members that go all the way across, and then the other ones that are going to go the other way, and it just gives a lot more strength to it and that sort of stuff. But I just lied a little bit then. I'm currently doing the legs and the sides before I do the rest of the underneath. And it's a little bit fascinating watching it all go together so quickly. And you get the odd shots of my underwear, which I'm quite glad I didn't have the holly ones out there. Apart from my holly pants, there's a little bit of a hole at the back of it, but you get that. They're my working clothes, so I don't really want to get my nice stuff too grubby as I'm doing it. But as you can see, I'm going around and those legs are about 1.3 meters apart from each other, which is pretty much even all the way across, so it should support the weight quite well across the whole thing, which is what I wanted. And I take measurements everywhere as I go, keep on taking more measurements, welding, grinding, welding, grinding, welding, grinding, until I get pretty much everything where I want it. So all the welding, grinding, skills like that you can see that I'm doing there, they're pretty much all self-taught. I just watched tutorials on the internet. I bought myself a cheap welder. That's the second cheap welder that I bought, but I bought myself a cheap welder and I just had a go. That's pretty much all that there was involved with it. It's got a bit of a learning curve like anything else, but it wasn't too bad. I learned how to do it and then I should realise it, but yeah, had lunch and then came back and got stuck back into it. Finish it off. Anyway, as I was saying, I taught myself pretty much all of the skills involved with welding. I basically got in there, I watched tutorials, I saw the little methods for how to use the torch and how to get the right sort of heat, how to control it and all that sort of stuff. And it's basically trial and error about how I got it working and how it all goes. So here I'm just doing a bit of beautifying it. So I'm grinding down all the welds for the bed just so they look a bit smoother and a bit more flush once they're actually painted. It doesn't really take away, all the welds are quite deep inside of it, so it's got quite a lot of strength. So I'm just grinding off the surface so it looks all flush.
As you can see behind me, the frame is pretty much complete. I've got all the welds ground down, I've got it all welded up, and it is huge. I saw it big in my head, but once it's actually down and in place, it's bigger than I thought it was going to be. So, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to paint it, because you don't want it rusting up, and if I paint it now before any moisture and anything can get to it, then it should stay quite dry and not rust up, because it is steel and it will rust eventually if it's not treated properly. So I'll get onto that. This right here is a Schultz gun. It's a little tricky thing that I discovered when I was fixing up a car, and it works really well. So you can use this to spray really thick paint and it'll come out quite well and quite evenly. So it saves me walking around with a brush and painting the whole thing. I can just go shh, which is what I want. So yeah, keep watching.
So we've got voiceover again. Anyway, as you can see, this paint goes on really quickly with this gun, which is something I like because I'm quite horribly impatient. And it goes on quite thick, so I think I'll probably only need one coat of it. And I don't have to thin out the paint at all. There are other sorts of guns, but you usually have to thin out the paint for it to go quite well, and water and steel don't really go too well together.
Okay guys, so we are all painted, as you can see behind me. And yeah, so now I'm going to let it dry overnight, and then I'll come back in the next episode and I'm going to go through how I line the sides of it. So what I use to line it, and setting up the pond liner, and all those sort of fun things. So yeah, thanks for watching and keep tuned for the next one.